I should have given you that banana.
And with that being said, hello and welcome to round number 10 of the Tata Steel Masters. Time flies when you're watching Vike, eh?
It is.
Like round number 9 to me.
Pretty much, yeah. Or possibly even 8.5.
We have quite some action. Magnus Carlsen started winning some games, and he is facing, is it fair to say, the underdog at this point? Because Jordan van Foreest has not played like an underdog. Magnus Carlsen is facing Vladislav Kovalev, who is in shared last place with the white pieces.
Yeah, clearly a game that Magnus will target. Although once he starts getting going, there are really no games that feel safe for his opponents. So, apart from the black game against Wesley So, I think, which is his last round pairing, where those Wesley I think feels kind of okay about, generally speaking.
I'm not sure Wesley feels okay about them, but he usually does draw them, and he's or wins the exchange stuff you want to know, HS. All right, so we have Magnus Carlsen versus Vladislav Kovalev. We have Vishy Anand against Nikita Vitiugov. Vishy, is he done with this tournament? Is he gonna make one last stand today? What's going on?
I think as usual with Vishy, when things kind of don't go his way, it very much depends on the outcome of the opening. I don't think he is entirely done with this game before it starts, but if he doesn't get anywhere at all out of the opening, I think it's very possible that he loses interest to a degree.
Back-to-back whites for Vishy Anand, did not use the one against Daniel Dubov very much. But yeah, we've talked a lot about his heartbreaking situation.
Yeah, I think all would have been very, very different had he won that game against Fabiano. He'd be on +1, arguably in the running for top prizes in this tournament, because very excitingly for us, nobody is really running away with it this year. Fabian clear first on +3, and that's because he beat Vishy. So Vishy on +2, with all the results being the same, would have now been on +1, would have been half a point off the lead, arguably. And then he would be, I think, very, very interested with the two whites, as mentioned, against the two young-ish Russians. They're all kids to Vishy, I'm sure, but Dubov clearly the younger one of the Dubov-Vitiugov pair.
All right, we have Fabiano Caruana, the world number 2, facing a former top 20 player in Alireza Firouzja. So that's an interesting little battle there. The first game between those two ever played. Alireza Firouzja, the 16-year-old phenomenon from Iran, broke the top 20 during this tournament, and I do not think that will be the final destination for him.
No, the discussion we've already had during this tournament, prompted by our esteemed chat, is when do we think he'll break 2800? I think, top 10 in reasonably near future, perhaps even this year, is not really an outlandish proposition whatsoever, but 2800 will have to wait.
I stole that joke from Mr. Dodgy. Just so you know, not taking credit for the former top 20. That's what it's come to. But he does play the King's Indian.
Yeah, very exciting, and I know absolutely nothing about h3 bishop e3. I used to play a little bit of h3 bishop g5 myself when I needed to build some kind of repertoire with 1d4, which I never really had. I played the pure Zemish for the first time. I switched to d4 in London Candidates, and then I played some h3 bishop g5, which more or less ended after I lost in 20 moves to Hikaru Nakamura in the European Clubs game. But h3 bishop e3 is some kind of a weird hybrid.
What the cool kids do now. Like, for a while, they did this bishop e2, followed by bishop e3. But recently they've decided, if we want to go bishop e3 and have that g4 square covered, it's somewhat more useful for us to play h3, keeping some more options open. After e5, they will play d5 and opt for a quick g4. And one big point is that knight h5 is usually not... I can't say I'm much of an expert here, but it's kind of hard to get this in, because This guy's hanging.
So this
with
is
knight f3.
like the new version of the Tomaszewski
Pretty much
Tomaszewski King's Indian.
improved Tomaszewski, not committing this knight yet. Sometimes might go.
And we are slightly tongue-in-cheek here calling it the Tomaszewski variation, but he did at some point start winning every single game with it against very, very top-level opposition, and that kind of sticks in your memory when you start seeing that. And
Firouzja goes knight c6, daring Fabi to push. I'm guessing he wants knight e5. Sometimes Magnus plays knight b8 in such
I'm
positions.
very confused because knight e5, f4, knight e7, knight f3 appears to be a reasonably good version of the positions they get in the 3f3 variation, right? Although knight h3, knight f2 is in these structures is actually quite good.
This kind of stuff, yeah.
Well, recently there was this. Nobody goes knight f3 here.
Just for comparison.
Yeah, but I think we've gained some tempi here, mainly because we played f4 in one go and didn't have to burn a tempo on that. So we'll see in a moment.
As mentioned, knight b8 they sometimes do, but that doesn't even force white to play f4, so no, knight e5 is played.
Yeah,
Alireza clearly prepared this. It's provocative.
it's extremely provocative, and I'm very curious as to how well this will go for him because these positions they can be extremely fun. And there goes one of your bets in the fantasy league. As we had this brief discussion, and if you look at the Chess24 Twitter, there is now currently a bit of a fantasy league thing going on where you can. It's probably is it already too late? For some of the questions, it's obviously already.
I guess after the round starts, it's too late. But you can check it out tomorrow. I think it starts every day at 10 p.m. The betting.
Good to bring some attention to it because it's a new thing we're trying out here, giving people a chance to guess a number of things. And one of the questions there was which of the 4 light pieces will Magnus develop last today, and whether it would be the knight on b1 and the bishop on c1 heavily depended on whether he will play 1 e4 or 1 d4, and after 1 d4, bishop does come out. Interesting choice against Kovalev, I will have to say.
Very strange, or somewhat strange to me, because black has a lot of very solid systems. I thought he'd go for a position where there are fewer imminent simplifications.
And Kovalev doesn't actually play like the killer openings against 1 e4. He plays like mainline Spanishes where 32 pieces remain on the board for vast periods of time.
Yeah, we've seen he's not exactly bulletproof in these. Whatever it was, the Zaitsev he played in round.
The Zaitsev and the Breyer, he does a lot of the less forcing Spanish variations, and
maybe Magnus just thinking, okay, I prepared this a lot for Mr. Fabi. It's fresh in my mind. Why would I waste energy starting to prepare e4 now if I can just repeat this? I think Fabi played a bit of a sidelanders h6 dc4. Probably Magnus has some plan against whatever. I keep forgetting the name's the Lasker.
Yeah.
This is the Lasker, right?
Somewhat interestingly, Kovalev goes castles before playing h6, which is, I would hesitate calling it an inaccuracy, but I'm pretty sure the more standard move order is bishop g5 h6, right?
I think there's no difference, frankly.
I was wondering if there can be some way to exploit it, but yeah, I'm sure the absolute vast majority of games here just transposes back to e3 h6 bishop h4. But there could be some weird ways to try to exploit it. Like they sometimes do these e3 h6 bishop takes f6, and then you suddenly start pretending you have a mating attack on the king side, right?
No, this exists, but if you go h6 takes e3.
Yeah, you still
castles here.
Black still castles, so it doesn't really change very much. Yeah, just wanted to bring it up because honestly I wanted to get slightly educated. I get very lost in these minute details of Queen's Gambit declined.
No, I was wondering about that question at some point. I think I decided it doesn't matter very much, and I think in top practice, starting with h6 to starting with castle, and then h6 is more or less balanced. We can look it up in the database.
Yeah. Wasn't there also this really weird game? I think Grishuk once played bishop g5, h6, bishop f4. Right?
Yeah, that always exists, and it does get scrutinized every now and then. Of course, there are some subtle points and some lines g4 will help and so on, but generally it has never really gathered mainstream attention. But yeah, there's always arguments being made for these moves.
Well, it does prevent the enhanced Lasker, but
Yeah, you could argue now knight bd7
Yeah.
it could be less good, but in c5 lines or b6 lines, I think people rather have the pawn on h6 than on h7. Having said all that, let's see what Magnus wants to do.
yeah, h6 played, and yeah, well, this is now an important turning point because bishop h4 leads to positions which might not be best suited to Kovalev's end.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I was actually mildly on point here, which is very, very surprising. I know very, very little about these positions. Yeah, it's a curious one, and the point, of course, or at least the potential point here, is that these days it's a lot more accepted that you can start just attempting to give mate in every single opening, including the openings which had the absolute, rock solid reputation. And White has been trying all kinds of h4, g4 in Queen's Gambit declines, and having the pawn on h6 is one potential explanation for why this could be more attractive here, because there is a hook to immediately start opening files up. And also, maybe in the knight d7, c5, knight h5 lines, the pawn on h6 is slightly misplaced? Question mark? Question mark?
I'm not sure if the point is
Yeah, obviously, but just trying to go through the possibilities, let's say, in this position after knight b7. Even knight b7 is not forced. c7, c5 is a very, very major move here, and
yeah, that's what I just said. I don't think knight b7 is the main move here. c5 or b6 come into consideration. Knight h5, bishop e5, a bit of a topic maybe.
Yeah.
Now that f6 is...
No, immediate knight h5 here I don't particularly like, but I don't think knight d7 is necessarily refuted by this move order. But c5 probably is by far the most logical one, because there it really does feel like taking away the g5 square and not having back rank issues in a lot of these forced lines that they're playing in the dc bishop c5 queen c2 positions might be. But maybe we can, another topical, you will obviously know like 100 times more than I do, but in the c5, dc5, bishop takes c5, cd5 lines, this is maybe some type of position where the pawn actually is better on h7, because they often have to play g7, g6 later in the game to deal with the bishop.
Bury the threat of bishop takes h7 check?
No, to mainly I think play against the bishop e1, queen c2 ideas and so on, because like knight d5, e5, bishop d3 here, in those positions after bishop b4 check, knight d2.
I wasn't joking though. Like, this is a threat which
Yeah.
no longer exists with the pawn on h6.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure we need.
Yeah, we don't need bishop
for
b4
this whole
yeah.
bishop b4 check business here.
But we probably shouldn't go down these rabbit holes too much until Kovalev actually settles on a move after bishop f4. And another good thing about this decision by Magnus, I guess, is that Kovalev probably did not expect any of this to happen, so he might start thinking, and he generally likes thinking. And I think Magnus generally, in response to that, Magnus quite enjoys playing against people who are prone to time troubles, because he is very, very good at creating practical issues for those people.
All right, let's go through the action. Even though I read that Fabi is already pawn up, I guess that means the computer says +1 or something at low depth. That could be, but Alireza, he has thought about this. He splits this out. And speaking of boring Queen's Gambits, what is this position?
This is quite strange to me, because well, it's I mean, Anish is trying to play the what's it called, the Steinitz, right? I guess.
And the scimitar.
The scimitar, yeah, all the non-modern grades kind of fusing into one in my head there. Yeah, of course the scimitar. I apologize. And Dubov says things but no things, but he also says let's swap everything in the center and not have anything out of the opening. I mean, the first part I can understand. The second part is not what I would describe as his usual approach. His usual approach is to go for as crazy a position as early as possible and play that. And today he will have a position with no pawns on the DNC files. And yeah, those I think suit Anish perfectly. Yeah, he will not mind having a slightly boring, very, very equalish position with the black pieces by move 10.
Yeah, somewhat surprising. Daniel Dubov, who is known for very sharp opening preparation, used to be in the Magnus Carlsen team for the 2018 match. And Magnus Carlsen has given a lot of credit for his destruction of everybody and everything in his past in the year 2019 to Daniel Dubov for inspiring him with all these sharp ideas that Dubov usually has. There is, of course, a shortage of sharp ideas against the scimitars. By far the main line we've seen Magnus play this against Zhong, I think, in this tournament, is this kind of business where if you're playing someone well prepared, like Anish, you will also know that he will blitz out 25 moves. He will know the subtleties. So maybe Dubov wasn't into that today. Choose a sideline. But I agree with you, because I've checked all the sidelines here and I've played Bishop F4, for example, which is in a similar spirit of dumb sideline. But I checked Bishop G5, and even I decided this is too dull. Like Knight D5, Bishop E7, Knight E7. You're just not getting very far. So it's sort of a peace offering from Daniel, which I'm surprised by, because he's not usually...
Yeah, he is generally not about that peaceful life, and yeah, a very, very significant deviation from normal form. I guess Knight DB5 would be the one attempt here that at least looks mildly interesting, but yeah, there should be a way to deal with it somehow.
What do we do? Knight BC6, do you give a check or do you exchange queens?
No, I thought takes long castles might be actually slightly problematic there. Bishop D7, Knight D6. Both B7 and F7 hanging.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. What's the move here? This can't be so hard.
Well, you told us just now that you studied this.
Yeah,
so,
I did. I know Knight DB5 is nothing, but I don't know why. The usual problem.
Yeah, it's definitely the
Queen B6.
yeah, Queen B6, Queen B6, Queen D6. I thought it also doesn't look like it instantly solves every single problem in the position.
Wow. Checkmate. Knight DB5. Anish. But seriously. There is a way, and we shall find it.
Well, possibly Anish will show it, and there is instant mayhem in the Caruana Firouzja game. So we should. I have a feeling this is the one we'll be enjoying the most today, not just because it's the most relevant in terms of the tournament standings, but also look at this.
Also in terms of chess history, is Caruana still Magnus Carlsen's main rival? Is it already Ali Reza? What say you?
Yeah,
Hot take.
Hint. Yeah, no, it is not already Ali Reza.
So you agree it's Caruana, not Ding Liren?
Well, that's not how the creation was framed, right? I'm not getting trapped in so early in the show.
Wow, no talk radio segment yet. Sad.
Yeah.
Laurent Fressinet in the chat. Laurent, how do you feel about Ali Reza?
I'm sure he likes him. And just to briefly try to explain why G4 was played in this position by Fabi after F4, Knight E7, I think you would like to play Knight F3, but after Knight F3, I think Knight H5 is actually kind of awkward. Because there is really no comfortable way for White to stop Knight G3.
Boom.
Yeah, but how happy are you about this?
I've been happier.
And Doji says, I'm not watching if Peter is going to avoid traps. I think that's fair, but there will be
early, Mr. Dodgy.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get him.
Exactly. So G4 is, I mean, it's a useful move for White in general because I think some kind of a Bishop G2, Knight G2 castle short setup is arguably what White often aims for anyway. But it also contains a defensive kernel inside because you do want to make sure you never have to think about Knight H5 here.
Defensive kernel.
Yes. And his 11 spices.
Bobby Shaparov is saying, Salut Laurent, allez Paris. I would like to remind everybody that the chat is in English only. So please, pas de français. D'accord?
Harsh.
Nah, I'm just trying to make friends early on. That's what I'm good at. I'm still really bothered by this knight db5. I know
Yeah.
very few people
And
will care about this game because it's gonna be a quick draw. But I want to know.
yeah, and there's also like half the board disappeared off the board already in the UNG Saw game somehow. I have a feeling it's that, judging by the position, it's probably this 4 knights position.
Oh, this is from my
From
series.
your videos, yeah. I think it's must be from your series, yeah.
Yeah, even though I have to somewhat shamefully admit, I did this series on the 4 nights for Chess 24.
It brought me a very important victory. I am very thankful to you.
You're very welcome. And yeah, this was sort of the centerpiece, this move bishop g4 in this position. Instead of the somewhat more boring c takes d5. But I had a change of heart, so I'm curious. It seems like Wesley has gone deeper here, because later in my Chessable e4, e5 series, I also had to cover this position, and there, shamefully, I had to admit, you know what, maybe I think queen d6 is a better move here. And I changed my recommendation from the Chess 24 series, where I gave cd5 to queen d6. I still don't think cd5 is bad, but in this very position they have on the board, this, I think we even talked about in some earlier show, it's all in the series, this is the first computer line. The point is queen d5, bishop h7. As a martial player, one should not even admit that one thinks there could be minor issues here, but I thought it wasn't so easy to make a draw here.
Yeah,
Calm down, this will get taken, and it was holding, I went deeper here as well, but I thought it wasn't that much fun, so I'm somewhat surprised that Wesley goes here.
yeah. Luckily for me, in my game against Luke McShane, Luke decided not to test any of these things against me and played something very nondescript, and I was somehow even better by move 15 and ended up winning. But yeah, this I would not have enjoyed very much if I got this position on the board somehow. It does feel like you probably make a draw at the end of the 7 hours, or earlier if you defend well and white doesn't press in the most testing way possible. But I don't think you enjoy any minute of it in the process. Where do you even go with this bishop? Is it d7?
I would guess so. Bishop e6, knight c7.
No, that position I really
Perfect.
don't want, yeah. That position I...
One question, because I don't think h3 was the move bothering me here. Can you go c6? I'm a bit confused by all of this.
Yeah, c6...
Knight c7, knight a6, does that win material?
Yeah, probably does, actually, yeah. That looks like a piece. More or less a full piece here, so yeah, I don't think you can do that. Maybe you can go rook a d8, but I don't know if that actually achieves anything compared to the bishop going somewhere. Rook a d8 in the current position, and if white doesn't have anything stronger than knight takes c7, then maybe we can go bishop c8 and claim this is an improvement, but I don't think it is, frankly.
Yeah, gonna be curious. Generally, I have great faith in Wesley's homework. Looks like he's taking a bit of time here too.
And Dodgy says, Peter's game even made it into the Chessable course. Quite an honor in my opinion. Yeah, I am both thankful and honored.
All right, so still looks like Wesley usually does his homework diligently and should be a big favorite to make a draw here, but he's not going to have winning chances. That's why.
I don't think that's the part that will bother Wesley greatly. I think the part where he is not easily equal will bother him, but not really the 0 winning chances. And yeah, we're missing the Alapin. We're missing out on all the exciting Alapin action, and also the somewhat symmetrical Schlechter. There are 2 games not mentioned yet at all. So which one do you want first?
I want my boy Jordan van Foreest. Is that the Alapin? I'm just guessing it is.
Yeah, that's the Alapin, and by this point you really no longer expect anybody to be surprised by your Alapin. So it's actually Jordan, I think, who starts thinking, well, somewhat thinking first in this game.
Somewhat importantly, though, he's played knight f3 in his games thus far, and only went c3 after knight to c6, and after d6 he's played d4, and we remember this rook g1 knight. While today he's starting with 2c3, the pure Alapin, which allows black
Slightly more freedom,
options.
Yeah, slightly more freedom, definitely. And
for example, bishop g4 is a move here, and e6 as Jan Krzysztof, your friend from Krakow, plays. Also, we haven't committed the knight anyway.
although he does reply to knight a3 with knight c6, I think transposing to... Is it? Transposing to the second Alapin that Jordan played in this tournament against Dubov. How did that go?
I have zero memory of that game, but you could be right. Wasn't there some knight on c2 at some point?
It went to b5 and then back to a3 and then to c2, and somehow the bishop got to g4, so it must be a different position. Yeah, the pawn was on g6 and so on. It's different. It's a different position. It was one of the main-ish lines.
Jordan won that game. He won 2 games with the Alapin already, no? This is more games than Alapin ever won. No, against Dubov, it was knight f6. It was completely...
Yeah, it was...
So, knight a3, knight c6. We talked about this position at some point during the broadcast. I can't recall. Where black doesn't have to go knight c6, but...
Yeah, some kind of a6 or queen d8 or whatever is what you play against a slightly lower rated opponent where you want to preserve winning chances. But this also is...
this is the game he had against Yu Yangyi. That's where this happened. Knight bd4, and then there was some knight c6, bc.
Yeah, exactly. No, I thought I've seen this before. It was just not the Dubov game. Yuangi played bishop d6 here, and Jordan played knight takes c6, and we were discussing the queen 6 bishop b5 lines. And Duda is the first to deviate with the move knight f6 d5, which is still not a novelty. I'm pretty sure. I'm certain I've seen this before. And Jordan thinks for a bit and retreats with this bishop to d2. I was wondering about bishop b5, but I guess it just doesn't quite work on tactical grounds. Should just be fine for black, I assume, but still some care is always required in these types of positions.
Yeah, and Jordan has done his homework so far. He's been very impressive with his homework throughout the tournament. And if he does this, I don't think he's playing for a draw. It's just what he prepared, and he won 2 games.
No, in his case, it's clearly not an opening that is being played in order to trade off all the pieces and then plaintively offer a draw. I still feel like black generally equalizes if he pays attention. Slightly awkward to develop pieces here for black. I've been trying to think which move I prefer. Like there is knight takes d4 followed by something, because bishop b5 would be a threat.
The positions are on the screen. 1 second. I just wanted to show people that Jordan van Foreest has been doing incredibly well, and yesterday he was very close to a victory, which would have brought him to tie for first place with Fabiano Caruana. And if we look at the ratings, 2,644, the lowest rated player in the field. Him being at +2, I think, well now, especially now that Alireza is only on +2, is still a bit of an underrated story for such an event.
Yes, certainly. Has dealt with the loss in round 2 very well. He won the first game against Yuangi, then lost round 2, then actually beat Dubov, and continues playing well, continues creating exciting games, generating chances, and yeah, came very, very close to the share of the lead yesterday. I think it would be fair to say close to mathematically winning straight out of the opening against Kovalev.
Master Gambit is wondering why Duda played queen d7, not queen d8. Exactly.
Probably to have the option of taking on c6 with the queen. Knight f takes d4 might be a bit of an issue, for instance, in this particular position, because you would like to play a6, but after knight takes e6, you are faced with a very unpleasant decision already, because you don't have queen takes e6 as a reply. So yeah, it would be a more natural move, but it's slightly tactically awkward.
So this is what they have. Bishop d6 has been played. There's this question from the Yu Yang Yi game yet again. Can we take with the queen here? BC at least is a structural concession.
Although those positions get very sharp, and White needs to prove that he has anything. And like BC leads to, I think, actually more double-edged play. And in terms of playing for all three results, I would probably actually play bc6, because after queen takes, I think Jordan's intention is to play knight d4.
He hasn't taken yet, we should mention.
Yeah, and here after knight d4, it's kind of awkward to find a good square. Obviously, this is not one. Queen c7 allows knight b5, which is something that very few people would like. Just giving up this bishop pair for nothing. And if you play queen b6, after bishop b5 check, you probably have to play king e7 or king f8, which obviously like a perfectly fine, Karpovian Caro-Kann king. And Karpov would just laugh here and say, this is the beginning of a beautiful three-move maneuver to get it back to g8, but not everybody is Karpov.
So, would his laughter be justified?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Even just castling short first, and because I thought e5 was a threat, but if castles e5, bishop c4, I think is a way to lose very quickly for black, because if e5 doesn't win material, it's not a move you ever make in these positions with the king on e7. You really want your structure to be as compact as possible. You want some kind of knight f6, rook h d8, bishop d7, king f8, and pretend that your position is sound enough to waste those tempi getting the king to safety. But yeah, White will have something to say about it. Yeah, I don't like it very much. And this is why b takes e6 might not just be the sharpest option, which I think is something that Duda is extremely happy about, but might also be just stronger, which helps.
Let's see if Jordan takes. But yeah, especially if you think BC is going to happen anyway, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to go bishop b5 to make sure it happens. So yeah, something like this.
Yeah, bishop d3. There's also some argument for c4, bishop c3 instantly, just to get this bishop to a good square. But black, I think, plays knight e7, f6. Like the ideal black setup involves probably limiting the squares for this knight on f3, probably c5, bishop b7 at some point. And this is where these positions become very double-edged. If black, let's say, at some point gets c5, e5, knight f5, knight d4, he will be like significantly better. So it actually becomes a race for control of those squares. White currently has the more solid pawn structure, and black definitely has more dynamic options in the short term.
And Laurent is asking the question we also could not answer earlier. What happened to Anish? Is he busted already? And I am so confused.
Yeah, and we gave the whole...
Because I literally... I'm mixing something up. I don't think I did. This is the line, no? Laurent, you know theory.
I wouldn't know, but yeah, as mentioned, like we gave the whole spiel about this not being Dubov's normal, MO.
He's winning up to 9.
Yeah, but
I also couldn't solve this.
But if he is just much better by move 9, it doesn't matter that the position looks boring-ish, because it quite clearly isn't.
Laurent says no clue, honestly. Let's figure this out. So bishop g5. I think it's supposed to take cd. The line was bishop e7, no? Like dc4 is a move here as well.
Yeah, dc4 obviously would be the second option.
This already looks very Dubovian. Queen a4, long castles, e4, and raise hell.
Take with the queen on e7? No, but that
we're worse.
Yeah, then we actually, Vishy holds every single one of those positions without looking at the board ever again. But that's the whole other matter, obviously.
Okay, let me check the database. Where Dubov at?
Wrong.
Oh, this is the
Wrong round.
Yeah? 10. Dubov, Giri. Yeah. And at least you were right, or we weren't going crazy about not finding an easy solution here. There might not be one. But what's the line?
It's, I mean, kind of remarkably bad, right? It's
Yeah. But that's how it looked like. It looked like we just couldn't see a move.
yeah, it is queen takes e7 apparently, and just play those positions. There's also sharper solutions after bishop g5. CD knight d4. The machine seems to suggest that e6 e5 might be playable. There's also some queen b6 weirdness. But this is very...
Then apologies to Dubov first of all, because clearly he was going for weird stuff. And I'm still very confused because
Yeah, and also...
maybe I'm mixing it up with some line in the Queen's Gambit that looks exactly the same. Anyway, apologies. Obviously, white is better here.
Yeah, and I think maybe, like, I want to say that Anish probably... Alarm bells should have been ringing louder in his ears, because Dubov really doesn't do let's trade every single piece and agree a draw by move 20 with white.
That's another part of my confusion. These things just don't happen to Anish. He might lose a game here and there, but to be lost after 9 moves, it's...
Yeah. There is obviously some history there. Dubov won that unbelievably exciting game in the Moscow Grand Prix in 2019. One of the craziest games I've ever seen live. I was playing next to them when that game happened, and it was just so much fun to watch. I'm sure you remember, but if our viewers don't remember, it's easily findable on our website. And the point was basically that at some point Dubov castled queenside, and the king on c1 had no pawns in front of it whatsoever. Both a2 and b2 pawns were gone by this point. And you don't see those positions very often. And ended up winning that game as well. So a very, very exciting game.
Yeah,
like
very worth playing through it.
Yeah, and this is a proper Dubov game. Like absolute insanity by move 15. And very well calculated when proper complications started.
Star Trek saying, Jan, being colorblind, I'm struggling with your red-green dots. Apologies. Not sure how we can solve that. In general, currently the dot is green, which means this is the board position. If we analyze and we make moves, then it turns red. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. Just ask if you're in doubt.
And M. Singer says, for a minute there, I thought that was a bottle of vodka, and my love for Peter took on a whole new level. Yeah, this is the old Zalay bluff. You drink from a bottle of what is clearly vodka, but you label it with a water label, and you pretend that this is not vodka. And it's been done. I am not the first one to try that gambit.
Mogneva saying, haha, Jan feels obliged to refute Dubov. No, that's not the source of my confusion at all. It's just earlier I stated very confidently, that bishop g5 is nothing, and Dubov is out of character trying to simplify here. Then you mentioned knight db5, and black is kind of lost. So I'm starting to doubt everything that I believed in. I'm still confused what line I've been mixing this up with. Is it?
Yeah, this one.
I think it's this line.
This one does exist, and this one really is nothing whatsoever. CD, 94, 95, yeah.
Because I have this picture in my head very clearly where this happens and it's nothing.
Actually, even here after long castles, I think some games have been. There's some.
Come on, give me one knight takes e7.
No, I think it's equal, but what I mean is games have been lost. Even this, somewhat surprisingly, is not entirely 0-0-0 without Venom. But I think Grishuk had a game where he was busted against Gabriel Sargsyan and maybe even lost that game in an Olympiads one year. Or maybe Europeans.
Anyway, off topic. Probably that was the line that I was thinking of, and maybe also that Giri had in his head, because it's such a pattern you've seen, this 95 bishop e7. And to be lost after 9 moves. So strange.
Yeah, once again, we probably shouldn't overstate the lost bit. He's
worse.
Much worse, but maybe not lost just yet.
That's fair.
Yeah, he played knight e6, and I guess we just snap take on d8, we go long castles check, we force black to actually, I have a feeling, play knight d7, which is incredibly awkward. And now another theme comes in. Yeah, exactly. G3, bishop G2. This is just such a dreamy Catalan for white. Just really going to be very annoying for Giri.
Yeah. All right, enough Giri. Which games have we not talked at all?
The Schlechter.
Do you know that Schlechter means worse in German?
I do now. And I did get at least one of the Steinitz, Tarash, Lasker, Schlechter variations correct on the first try today, which is already an achievement. But when you've been chugging vodka early in the day, what can you expect? Do you know anything about this?
Not much. It's a line people sometimes play in order to avoid theory. He starts with the Chebanenko move order. There's a6, e3. Can lead to very critical theory after b5, b3. Even after e6, there's a lot of theory which he used to play this. And g6 is a line I think Gatakamsky's played quite a bit as well.
So and also the Chinese players, I think, have done quite a bit of that. People like Busanji and... but obviously
I'm not sure they go through this move order.
Yeah.
Like they usually wait for e3 and then they play g6.
But they are very serious Schlechter players as well. But yeah, naming Gata is the first name on the list there. He's been doing this for years and quite successfully.
I like a4. I think I played a3 here once, which I also liked. But a4 is also a very typical idea, just stopping dc followed by b5, hinting at a5. And black goes a5. Now you take and you argue. Your problems on the queen side are more serious than my problems on the queen side, because the bishop on g7 is not a big contributor to this battle over here. So I like how Jeffrey Zhong has played this.
And it's also, he's doing it in a very, very concrete fashion, saying that I am not worried about mass trades here with knight e5, because I feel like my position will be much more active at the end of those lines. You could also just play rook c1 here, obviously not forcing anything. But
Or play
h3.
Here.
Yeah.
There's some topics to be talked about.
And restricting and not allowing black to trade the bishop on c8 is often a very major topic in these positions, as with many other positions. But yeah, all the knights are gone now. Knight e5, d5, knight e4 played by Artemiev quite quickly. Knight e4, d, and yeah, this now becomes a very concrete tempo-oriented position, because currently black is running quite a few tactical risks, or both strategic and tactical, because b7 is weak, the bishop on a3 is very strong, queen b5 appears to be a monstrously strong move, and if you give white, you know, two moves in a row here, I'm pretty sure he'll be completely winning, and not just rook d1 takes d8, but I mean like a useful move and then a non-discrete move by black. But I think queen b5, I think the intention is to meet with queen d3, I'm pretty sure, because I honestly don't see any other moves in reply.
Artemiev also has been playing very quickly, so it could be
maybe queen
all part of the
c7.
master plan.
Maybe queen c7. Maybe I'm wrong about queen d3 being the only choice. But what I mean is you cannot possibly afford to play something like, I don't know, b6 or rook b8 here. You will just get completely steamrolled by rook fd1, rook ac1, and your position will start falling apart. So you do need to generate instant counterplay here somehow. And the two moves which attack something, queen d3 and queen c7, are very high on that list.
Vice was wondering, Jan Peter, do fantasy contest questions like how many players will castle queenside apply to both groups or only the masters? I believe all the questions apply to only the masters.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me when I read through those questions. I watched Jan fill out that contest
Badly.
before my very eyes. Yeah.
Magnus already developed his queenside bishop.
So what's happening here? Kovalev did play c5.
Yep. Takes a3.
a3, not cd5. Knight c2, knight c6, queen c2.
Yeah, the argument, I guess, is... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I would like to listen to this, because you know most of the very topical lines here actually include white going bishop f4, g5 at some point, right? So I'm guessing queen a5 long castles. I'm guessing this is where you can find positions where having the pawn on h6 will generate faster initiative for white. Some kind of like instant g4 here, perhaps. Yeah, exactly.
This is a famous effing position with the pawn on h7. This is some old Kasparov.
Yeah, exactly.
Spielman, maybe, I don't know, games from the late 80s. Then at some point, Kasparov switched to h4, but this is all with the pawn on h7, and here, the pawn on h6 could be a bit of a target. g5 comes much faster.
After d takes c4 with the pawn on h7 here, they actually don't play g5, they play bishop takes c4, and then after e5 they play g5.
Right.
And that line...
But here we play g5, no?
Yeah, probably. Probably, and we're actually quite happy about it. Hg, knight takes g5, and black never actually gets the tempo he needs to play knight f6, d5, and start challenging our pieces, because yeah, blundering queen h7 mate is no longer a cool thing kids do. Kids have done that once and found out they didn't like it, so they no longer do that.
Kovalev played a very logical move, though, to my mind. At least using the fact that his pawn is on h6, he plays knight h5. Obviously, there is no more bishop g5. Carlsen blitzes out bishop g3. But how great is this? Is it so great? It's like takes.
Takes. We might even be interested in something like instant g4 here.
Could be this.
Yeah, g4. Threatening g5 with bishop b7, we go rook d1, re-establish the threat of g5. Yeah. It could be that today Magnus is attacking and also prepared maybe to even sacrifice something for it, although not just yet. So you think he is so on brand that he will refuse to be drawn into any sacrificial continuations here?
I don't know.
There it is. Yeah, d takes c4. I think if we want to take on c4, we probably want to take now, because that line with g4 actually looked quite serious to my eyes. And here at least we quote-unquote force white to take on c4, which he will not be that unhappy about.
Yeah, it does seem like he came prepared.
And another somewhat critical line would be d4 in some order, to which white normally just replies long castles, right? And
sometimes.
Yeah, I was about to mention, yeah, like dc, rook d8, cb. There's definite positional compensation here. Maybe we actually throw in knight g3, hg, because I'm slightly bugged by the prospect of white playing bishop h4 at the end of this line. I don't know how happy we are with actually opening the h file for the h1 rook, but yeah, if you give black a few tempi here to finish development, he will definitely have enough compensation. But white probably takes with the king and once again starts g4, g5, saying, you know, I now have an extra queen, but I will still be attacking on the king side. You did not deter me, sir. Weird positions.
Mr. Dodgy is saying, I'm waiting for Jan's new series next week, Sacrificing Without Attacking. No, Mr. Dodgy, I'm not a super grandmaster, so I can't call blunders, sacrifices, or stuff I missed, stuff I forgot. So for me it would be blunders without attacking, even though I probably have said I sacrificed a pawn in the past when I've blundered a pawn, and it's kind of turned out well. Have you done that, like change the narrative according to position you got?
I think I told this story on air once, but the funniest example of this, and that was before I started, I guess before I joined the club, and I was a lot more honest in my younger days. There was a game I played in the 1997 Groningen World Cup against Vladimir Yepyshin. First round of the double round micro match, and Yepyshin in those years played almost exclusively the Caro. And we somehow got this typical e5, d4 against e6, d5 structure. And I could maybe even reconstruct it somehow, but it doesn't matter that much. Basically, there are 4 light pieces left on the board. I have knights on c3 and f3, and he has like it's a kind of a I don't recall the actual move order, but the structure is very similar to what actually happened in in the Artemiev games here. So let's just like randomly trade some pieces to show approximately what we had on the board. So we have some kind of a position like this. Castles. Yeah, the knight. Yeah, I shouldn't have played 97. Okay, so now I will lose some tempi. Yeah, like a6, queen d1, and black. I don't know. Something like, yeah. It's important that the queen wasn't on d8. Maybe it was on c7. And it was actually probably on a5. But the point is, there is currently actually, I think very possibly exactly this position, because this is how I remember it. And in this position, black quite clearly wants, no, the rook is on a1. And
analyze this game at home, kids.
yeah, exactly. I'm sorry for this build-up, but it's sort of relevant. And okay, I'm sorry about all this. Hang on. So like queen c7, a3, queen a5. I think this is the position actually. And you can play before here. He plays queen d8. You play g3. And because this will be hanging in a moment. And I thought, why should I? If I'm playing g3 anyway at the end of this line, why can't I play g3 straight away? So I played g3 here, and he played queen b6. And here I realized that I kind of did not prepare properly for this queen b6 move, because I thought, okay, queen b6 doesn't do anything because I go knight a4, knight c5. But black just wins a pawn by taking on g4.
Oh, you forgot about knight takes d4?
Yeah, and I thought, okay, this still looks better than knight e2, queen b2, because that really doesn't look attractive at all. So I played this position. In this position, I played rook c1, knight takes f3, queen takes f3. With the pawns on h7 and h2, you kind of resign here, because black just castles queenside, kingside, and just converts his extra pawn. But with the pawns on h4 and h5, there's surprisingly quite a bit of counterplay, because black cannot castle safely. Knight takes e5 runs into something like queen e2, with knight takes e6 to follow. There's actually a decent attack. And also I think it was very annoying for my opponent that he wasn't instantly winning after he was given a free pawn in the center. And he ended up kind of slowly, without even large blunders, he ended up losing this position to me. There's it's not lost, and it might not even be that horribly worse for white here. Surprisingly, this is a strong piece. And
when comes the part where you lie to everybody about your deep long-term pawn sacrifice?
No, but that's exactly what the reason I brought this up and wasted everybody's time setting this position up is next day I met Eduardo Rosentales, and he said, "Interesting sacrifice you played yesterday, Peter." And I said, come on, Edik, I just blundered queen b6, queen a7. And he looked at me and he had this little laugh, and it was quite clear he did not believe a single word of that. And there was no way I was selling this idea of this being a blunder to him. He thought, yeah, I mean, young man is quite clearly fooling with me here. Interesting positional sacrifice led to a wonderful victory. And now he doesn't want to tell the truth to me. And honestly, I sat at the board after g3, queen b6, just cursing at myself and thinking, how can you be such an idiot? So I've undergone this transformation from somebody who, called blunders and wasn't believe, and now I'm calling them memory malfunctions, and people probably still don't believe me.
No, we always believe you. Vishy was complaining about this, or not really complaining, but he says, even if I do complete nonsense in the opening, if I mix up moves or something, people will follow my games, and we'll see.
No, there's a very famous example of that, obviously, the old game against, who was it, Zapata, or who was it, the Petrov game?
Probably not Vishy's all-time favorite.
Yeah, no, he will not mind that much if we tell this story. No, but that was a very, very young Vishy, but he didn't know that you cannot blindly trust anything that Chess Informant publishes, because basically a game that was, I think, agreed drawn because they went partying the night before between, I think, Larry Christensen and somebody, was published in a previous Informant as an RR, which stands for editor's content. Players didn't actually send that in. The editors just noticed the game was played, and they published it without any kind of commentary. And in that game, because quite clearly they were just waiting for move 15 to offer a draw, I just took on e4 here, d3, bishop g6, and it was agreed drawn on move 15. So Vischer repeated it in a tournament game, and then
Exclamation mark, bishop f5.
yeah, Miles Christensen says shedding forward. Yeah, I remembered it. It involved Larry, and yeah, now after Queen e2, basically you just resign because you lose a piece, which he did do. And yeah, that's an early. I mean, nobody really reads the Chess Informant anymore, or at least not as much as people used to, because all of this information is widely available online. And the importance, like the Chess Informant used to be like the overriding influence you had in the opening theory, and it clearly does not occupy that space anymore. But
So remember, I got Chess Informant number 50 for my 15th birthday. It was a big day. I read all through it, but times have changed a little. Still around though, as far as I know.
yeah, I did say Zapata, so I got that correct. Thanks, Mata KP, or Mate KP, or yeah, I don't know why I said that. Probably because of Zapata, I decided to read it in a fake Spanish accent.
Crashing it. We're on the Twitch front page, so it's time for telling these people that just came here after a casual glance because we were ties and they thought, this looks weird. Is this a Dota 2 stream? No, it's chess. My name is Jan Gustafsson. This is Super Grandmaster, 8-time Russian champion, Peter Svidler, who is blessing us with his presence here, explaining everything that happens in Vik an See in the first super tournament of the year, featuring stars like Vishy Anand, like Nikita Vitiugov, who, like you, Peter, hails from St. Petersburg, but also the world champion Magnus Carlsen, who had a very, very slow start, drew his first 7 games, but now won 2 games in a row, and he will be looking for more blood, for Vladislav Kovalev's blood today.
To be more specific, yeah. And a very interesting position in in that game on the board, or at least as long as Magnus doesn't castle kingside and it all dies down. dc4 bishop takes c4 has been played already, and now becomes this curious passage of play where you would obviously like to take on g3, but that would give black those g4, g5 things to worry about. So I think black probably starts by making as many useful moves as possible without committing to taking on g3. Bishop e7 comes to mind, kind of sidestepping potential tempi. Also stopping bishop h4, I think, might not be the stupidest idea in the world.
Yep, still right out of the opening, Kovalev has been taking some time. Carlsen playing very quickly, might still be in book here. Do we have anybody in the chat, like Laurent Fressinet, his trusted French assistant, who could tell us? Like normally in Jorn van Foreest game, at least Johann Sebastian shows up and tells us if Jorn is still in book or not. I think Laurent should provide the same service.
We should actually look at the Caruana game though, because it's about to potentially blow up, and knight takes c4 has been mentioned in chat as a possibility here. And yeah, this is now, this could go badly wrong for white, or it could backfire horribly for Alireza. Let's try to calculate. Knight f takes c4. I assume it's knight f. White is more or less obliged to take. Fabio obviously hasn't blundered this. He spent quite a bit of time on the last 3 moves. I think he started thinking around g4, c6. So the sequence of knight f3, cg, and knight g4 took him some time. So it's obvious he spent some time calculating knight fe4.
You don't think he was just excited to set up the bathtub as quickly as possible?
The bathtub is about to get absolutely destroyed here.
Bathtub.
94. I think bishop takes d5. There's an honorable mention going to bishop takes d4 first, but I don't think it's correct.
Check.
Knight f6. Yeah, I think we go ef. Queen d5. We go rook e8. I think queen f3 might be, although king f2 might not be a bad move at all. Yeah, but I play fg5 regardless of which of those 2 moves you choose. And yeah, it's a mess. I don't know what to think about this. It's a very difficult position to assess properly without thinking for a bit. fg5, rook e5 becomes a move. either with the inclusion of 94 check or maybe instantly and then we go 94 check next move. Once again, not sure which one is stronger. There's also all kinds of romantic ideas of including rook takes e3, but I don't think they work yet. And if you don't take fg, then black will have 3 pawns for the piece and, definite compensation, maybe more than compensation. This is why I liked queen f3 slightly more, because I was hoping to play queen f3, and after fg, I was hoping to castle queenside at the first opportunity. Try to get my king to b1, where I will start feeling maybe I'm not getting mated today. But even that is absolutely anybody's game. Like you probably throw in rook c8, king b1, and then you start some operation in the center.
Also, if you don't do this knight takes e4, you're probably worse, right? This position does not look particularly appealing to me.
There's still a lot of potential play in the center, like e7, e5. No, but the knight goes to c6, though. Yeah, this is not fun.
Is there, h4, h5.
No, I mean, the center will get blown up somehow. It's just that knight c6 is such a good response to many of the things that black can try here. And having lost a painful game yesterday where it felt like Magnus did not really let him breathe for a vast majority of that game, I think Alireza would be extremely interested in creating as messy a position as early as possible.
Lira Le Capital saying, important question, will I become a better person when watching Laurent Fressine's series on the Berlin? No. Being around Laurent has never made anybody a better person, but it will make you a better Berlin player and much harder to beat after e4, e5, unless you're already a big martial expert. So I highly recommend it, but better person, nah.
Harsh but true.
But true, wow, I didn't expect that. I expect you to come to Laurent's defense. He's such a nice guy.
He is a very, very nice person, but...
This bothers me about him, by the way, and I've told him this many times. Really bothers me that no one dislikes Laurent. Why is that? Even his extreme Frenchness does not bother people.
And yeah, that is one characteristic which generally bothers everybody about everybody, right? It's...
No, but he takes great pride in his Frenchness. He claims he's much Frencher than other French grandmasters.
How is
universally beloved for it?
How is that established? What's the metric there?
Like there are some factors. Like for example, the French number 1 is Maxime Vacher-Lagrave. There, he's also very French, but his nerdness overrides his Frenchness.
Ah, okay.
So he has a more dominant characteristic than his Frenchness. While for Laurent, it's all Frenchness.
I can get behind that. Yeah, MVL is definitely a nerd first. And
Maxime, if you're watching, we mean zero offense. We're just trying to define Frenchness here. And Laurent ticks all the boxes. Big PSG fan, he eats pain blanc with breakfast, lunch and dinner. He loves it when people mock his French accent. He enjoys his saucisson. He enjoys walking the streets of Paris. I don't know what else there is.
Yeah, we've described I mean, you're also supposed to wear a beret, but I don't think I haven't seen him in a beret.
You haven't?
No.
I'm not sure. I think that's more of a countryside French thing, because there's also a big... Oh, I should stop. I'll get in trouble. But I think there's a big cultural difference between Parisians and their Frenchness and non-Parisians and their Frenchness. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that is true. But I do want to object in the strongest possible terms to you using the word nerd as any kind of a derogatory term.
I didn't.
It felt like you did, and
no, I instantly said that I meant zero offense to MVL, but clearly his nerdness overrules his Frenchness. That is not a judgment.
First you said his nerdness overrules his Frenchness, and then you said I mean zero offense, which implies that by mentioning his nerdness, you could have caused offense.
Yeah, but some people out there will still mistake nerd as a derogatory term, which it no longer is, because we all know we are living under the harsh dictatorship of the nerds.
Exactly.
Who are ruling the world these days. So, as Burns420 says, put it, nerd is the new cool.
What a nerdy argument, says John Wonderwall.
Yeah,
Nerd
please
arg-
get back to chess. That's a one point. That always triggers me greatly. But on this point, feels kind of right. All right. Sorry, Twitch front page. Nerdy chess analysis to follow.
Yeah, I think we get here, and then yeah, the debate between Queen of 3 and King of 2 is real. I still lean towards this, but I will mention that after Queen of 3, there's also Queen E7, which might prevent White from castling queenside so comfortably. So it's maybe not such a horrible idea. Queen E7 probably prompts White to play King of 2 here. I would still... Actually, I'm not sure if I want the Queen on F3. Because here I definitely am not playing FG5. This feels like we've already lost. Actually, we have already lost. It feels like just
pretty bad,
yeah, pieces are being dropped next
Knight six,
move. Yeah,
queen
knight six.
three.
Yeah, exactly. So in this position already, it's time for some very uncomfortable decisions. I don't even know which move to suggest, frankly. Like maybe rook d1 barely doesn't lose material, but we are on very, very shaky ground here as White. There is knight c2, but once again, yeah, once you start making moves backwards in this position, it just, I don't know, it looks like an absolute dream for any kind of an attacking player. I think the biggest surprise is that this hasn't been played yet, because it feels playable, and
Also,
yeah,
it's
there,
right up
there it
to
is,
Reza's alley.
there it is. Yeah, thank you, Alireza.
Here he goes. This is going to be a very different game than the one against Magnus, where he never managed to target a single thing. And Fabi, who's also one of the top 3 calculators out there, I don't think he's going to be afraid, but
No.
I don't think this is the game you envision against Ali Reza.
Although, I don't know, this probably doesn't, well, extremely likely this doesn't apply to Fabi because he's still very young, but for me personally, and on good days this actually works quite well for me, and on bad days I regret everything horribly. When I play people with the stylistic characteristics of somebody like Ali Reza, if I feel okay about my chess on the day, I often tell myself, I actually used to be a pretty sharp tactician. Arguably not all of that is entirely gone, despite me being 43 or whatever it is that I am right now. So why not compete on that ground?
It is 43.
It is actually 43. I was just pretending, and it's a bit of a prideful feeling because you want to kind of give ground on give battle on their preferred ground, but it really used to be my preferred ground as well, and it feels like if you actually manage to do it well, it also sends a message that you know, these positions don't belong to you exclusively. Yeah, you know, even old people like us can still outcalculate you every now and again. But clearly, Alireza will not be disappointed by any of this.
Finally, your get off my lawn speech.
It was coming. Listen.
You punks think you can outcalculate me? Fabi, how old is Fabi? He's like 27.
Yeah, clearly the Fabi is some way away from get off my lawn, but against
Probably has a nice lawn, no? In his St. Louis suburb.
he actually lives slap bang in the center. He lives like a couple of blocks from the chess club.
Have you been to his place? I'm very curious.
I was
What can you tell
invited to
us?
his place, but there were circumstances, so I ended up not going. I feel very...
Wow. You turned down Fabiano Caruana, the world #2 player, who invited you to his bachelor's mansion.
Well, I don't know how mansiony it is, but yeah, I got an invite one day and basically preferred sleep over it, which should tell you everything you need to know about me.
Disrespect. Fabi, I had no idea about this. Sorry. I'm very curious though. Do you think he lives like in an apartment? Do you think he has a house in the suburbs? He probably has a big flat somewhere. Eh?
No, it is an apartment block, reasonably like very, very close to the chess club in the central West End. I actually know where it is.
So you didn't even have the excuse. You didn't find it.
No, no, I did have an excuse of like a 7 a.m. flight the next day, and it was like close to midnight when they asked me to come over. But yeah, clearly many people would still have gone, but sleep is very important. Never underestimate the importance of a good night's sleep.
There you go, chess fans. I'm sure you can relate. You get an invitation to Fabiano Caruana's apartment, the world number 2, the man that held Magnus Carlsen to 12 draws. Nah, I'm good. I want to sleep.
Yeah, who knew of that? You know, of all the things that I've done wrong before your eyes. This would be the one that finally broke it for you. Anish is not gonna like this very much. Interestingly, Dubov decides not to even take on d8, which I quite like seeing where they live, where they ended up, because compared to the position we were discussing, it's taken black a number of moves to solve the issue of knight coming to c7, and also the knight on b8 got developed to a kind of a horrible square on a6. So I think what we do here with white is we take on hang on. Yeah, we take on c6. Either rook d1 or bc, I think it comes to the same. Rook d8, rook king g8, we give a check. You cannot play bishop d7 because of knight. Well, you can, but knight d6 is extremely awkward. So I think you go king e7. And now we go knight d4, bishop b7, bishop d7, and but that the issue with all these lines is that so much material has been traded that
It's tenable for black.
yeah, it's not that horrible. It's actually not that horrible. Is there anything stronger? Because I think
to do anything.
yeah, no,
A3.
but a3 is actually a very very hot topic here. A3 followed by b4, and this
There
is
we
what
go. Mr. Dubov.
Yeah. Well, black is sort of prepared to play bishop d7 already. Knight d6, rook a b8 will not be winning any material anymore. But having played a3, white can play knight d6, rook a b8, and b4, and instantly create a very strong threat of b5. Yeah, it could get quite awkward for black here.
Yeah. Giri has an underrated quality of being quite good at defending horrible positions, but I don't think he wanted to get this horrible position today. So he's gonna be kicking himself a little bit.
Yeah.
Yu Yang so yeah, this went along the lines that were to be expected. You give up this pawn. And usually you do hold because of the bishops and because the white pawns are somewhat scattered, shattered. Those apologies, I'm not sure if I hit the button in time.
Yeah, bless you. And yeah, it does feel like I quite like the sequence of bishop d7, rook c8, and not taking on c7, going rook fd8 instead. For now, yeah, it does feel like black ends up not losing this position, but Yuangi won't mind one bit. He will have, solid pressure for a while. You know, you win maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 out of 10. Even against players of Wesley's stature, you occasionally convert this. Although Wesley is very high on the list of people you would give this position as black and say, yeah, you please don't lose this for my life.
Yep.
Magnus, we get the bishop e7 move correctly, and Magnus makes a very sneaky little bishop a2 move in reply. Another reason why the pawn on h6 is often slightly annoying for black in structures like this, because rook d1, bishop b1 is now very heavily indicated, or even long castles maybe, but I think rook d1, bishop b1 in particular is what Magnus is hinting at.
Did Vichy do this to Magnus once? I recall some Vichy Magnus game where some bishop a2, bishop b1 was a big topic from their match.
Yeah, I think there was one game. And yeah, it's also very noticeably, and we did discuss it a bit earlier, white is in no hurry to castle here. He really wants to make as many good moves as possible before even thinking about castling, because if black ends up taking on g3 and the rook is still on h1, white just probably goes king f1 and g4 and goes for those lines. So there will be this dance going on right now, with Kovalev trying to find a way to force white to castle somehow. I don't think it will be easy. I'm not even sure it's possible. I think the position is so placid, apart from the black king side slightly weakened, that white can very safely just keep it on e1 for as long as he pleases.
Yep, looks like Magnus came armed. Speaking of Vishy, how is he doing against Nikita Vitiugov?
Some kind of a heavy theoretical battle here. I'm slightly surprised by 10d4. I have seen them start doing that, but...
It's this weird line which nowadays no longer comes as such a big surprise, popularized by Alexander Grishuk, but played by lots of top players.
Yeah, even
nowadays, you go a6 and after a4.
Even I played, I think, at least one game in this line against MVL, maybe even two, in our match in the Tbilisi World Cup. Did not go all that well for me, but... d4, bishop b6, bishop b3, yeah, it would be logical if not for the fact that you are allowing this break. And black doesn't recapture immediately. I think it's important to explain why knight takes d5 isn't played here. I think the reply is instantly bishop takes d5, knight c3, and d4, d5. And that last bit is very important, forcing black to get these bishops off the board. Even that is not unplayable, I suppose, for black, but it's, I think, quite clear that it should be slightly better for white. So knight b4, knight c3. Already here you can make an argument for taking, actually, but Nikita decides to include bishop f5, creating a threat of bishop c2, of course. Sorry, knight c2, yes. Yeah. And yeah, asking white to spend the tempo on dealing with that should be okay for black, I guess, as long as he actually doesn't forget to win that pawn back. But there's currently no way to stop it that I can see. Is knight h4 move at all?
Wasn't sure. Here
and queen f3.
Queen f3.
Oh no, but the queen knight c2 will. Yeah, I don't think I'm giving mate anywhere near fast enough here to justify this, right? One more tempo somewhere, and this maybe would have been a topic, but here I don't see it.
All right. So Nikita Vitiugov doing okay today, not doing great in the tournament. Nicknamed the Iceman. I'm not sure if it's because of his great composure in tiebreaks, in clutch situations, or because sometimes he gives across a little frosty vibe. Or I don't think he's rude or frosty, really. He just doesn't smile very much. Is that where the Iceman nickname comes from?
Yeah, I think there's also, bishop f4 is a very clever move by Vishy. But on the subject of Nikita, I think there's always probably a very big temptation to do some, ice-related material whenever you talk about Russians. There's, the obvious, country covered in ice, bears dancing in the streets type vibe that it's very difficult to shake entirely. It still exists to a degree, but yeah, but
we all know that bears dancing in the street is nonsense. But you're gonna argue with the ice?
Well, these days, yeah. I mean, we had like light drizzle on New Year's Eve this year. There's just no snow. It's gone. Flowers.
Where does snow go?
Well, it's melted, and this year it hasn't even melted. It just never arrived. Winters are getting well. Obviously, it's a large.
Winter is going.
Yeah, it's a large country, and there are still places in the country where it will be -50. But I mean, we haven't had a white. Well, I guess in this parlance, a white Christmas, because that's the usual term. We haven't had a white Christmas in a while.
Sorry to hear that. If you needed any more proof for climate change, no more white Christmases in St. Petersburg. But back to the Iceman. So it's because he's Russian plays a part in it.
I think there might be a minor part because he's Russian, but mainly he is around people he doesn't know well. He doesn't probably strike people as a particularly cheerful person when they first meet him.
But is he particularly cheerful? And I mean this as, once again, the usual disclaimer. I mean this as zero offense. He just seems like a serious, thoughtful guy, no?
Yeah, but we've discussed this before. He has a very, very pointed, very good sense of humor, which just is not instantly obvious unless you've spent a decent amount of time around him, and he doesn't open up easily to new people. But yeah, he
But
is.
isn't that different things? Or at least I hope it is, like having a sense of humor and being cheerful.
Yeah, those are two very different things. Yeah.
I wouldn't think of myself as very cheerful, but I like to think I have a sense of humor. So maybe I'm like Nikita without the chess skills.
You are not unlike each other, I would say. Although
Nikita, we can be friends.
I did not say that.
Oh.
It's very, very difficult to be friends with Nikita. Trust me, I tried.
All right.
On the topic of the position he actually has on the board, Bishop f4 is a very smart move. Knight c2, rook e5 you showed on the board, but also if you take on d5 here, which I think is maybe time to do for black, or at least time to very seriously consider instead of knight c2. I think if you take on d5, the intention is to take and go rook e5 anyway. There is bishop e6 though, and I was trying while we were discussing.
Go rook e5 here or
Yeah.
after? No, it takes me.
Well, I think we go rook e5 here, but after bishop e6, I was kind of banging my head against the wall here slightly because I would like to start some kind of a mating attack here, but I just don't think I'm fast enough. And if I play bishop g3, there's even knight e3 ideas which could be playable for black. Knight c3, queen d3 is bad, but knight e3 might actually work. Yeah. And also, if black decides to waste one more tempo on something like bishop h7 in the current position, you might not win the pawn on d5 back. And that would be a disaster. Like, if that pawn survives, black's position is just busted. Like, if you play bishop h7, both rook c1 is a problem because c7 will be hanging in the end, and also just rook e5 is a very large problem.
All right. So Vichy putting some pressure.
And yeah, just to clarify, because this idea appears to be gaining a life of its own, this isn't actually vodka. If this were a strong liquor, it wouldn't have been vodka anyway. I'm not much of a vodka drinker.
Wow, really fighting all these stereotypes.
Yeah.
Those Russians.
A3 bishop d7 played, and yeah, the choice the choice for Daniil here is to, I guess, play before, after knight d6 or instantly. And I like including knight d6 because if we go b2 before here and allow bishop e8, that knight doesn't actually have good squares. So we do this. I guess black plays knight c7, and this is where the big question comes: do we actually make any progress?
How exactly?
Yep. There's a very cute idea of knight b7, rook d7, but it doesn't work. It kind of loses slowly. It doesn't lose immediately, but it loses slowly.
Jump around.
Yeah, this is the knight d5 annoys me. Yeah, because the knights kind of get stuck. b5, knight a5 is also clearly not something you want to be doing because you kind of you ruin your own structure a little bit by pushing b5 there. So yeah, this is the big question. We've sort of achieved everything we wanted, and there is still no decisive killing blow of any sort. And black probably wants to play something like bishop e8 next move, and start offering trades. And yeah, looks very nice, but might not actually be anything particular.
If we start with this, what was the issue?
Bishop e8, I thought was the although maybe we just win the ace. No, we don't win the a7 pawn. I thought taking on d8, taking on c6, and taking on a7. Black takes with the pawn and actually wins a piece, which is no, he doesn't. There's b5 here, but this is just a draw, right? It's yeah, rook a1, c5. Black never loses these positions. Something with a 4 f5 says Lira Le Capital. Yeah, but I'm not sure it creates enough of a threat. I guess before knight c7, f4. But as I mentioned, I mean, bishop e8 is probably the next move, and after that you will not have time to play f5 in this game. So yeah, I'm currently not really finding any concrete ways in for Daniel. Giri might be getting away with it.
We shall see. Carlsen played rook d1.
Yeah, and Kovalev also played a6, which kind of shows just how difficult it is for Black to be making waiting moves here, whilst he's kind of hoping to take on g3, but not really liking the capture on g3. I guess
Queen a5.
yeah, I guess queen a5 and hope to play b5, bishop b1, g6. But once bishop b1, g6 is on the board, we might even start looking at something like bishop d6 and saying, you know, the structure is so ruined that we can now switch from bishop h4. Yeah. Forcing g7, g6 here would be a very, very big boon for white.
So it looks like Magnus managed to put some pressure. I don't know. A6 feels a little slow. Maybe it's already troubles, but maybe I
just
could
couldn't-
bite this bullet.
No, but that actually does look very scary. Because knight g3, hg, my next two moves are rook d1, bishop b1, and you know you might start actually kind of losing material on the king side, or playing f5, allowing g4 and getting steamrolled. Yeah, but rook d1, rook d8, I guess, and pretend it's all good.
Not saying it's all good, but I don't like the position he got all that much. Here, at least, if I manage bishop f6, king f8, I won't get checkmated very easily.
Yeah, that's a fair point. A6 did look a bit too meditative for my liking, frankly. Nikita does take on d5, unsurprisingly. So now Vishy has to show how he intends to proceed from here. He could play rook e5 even in this position, but I think Black still plays bishop b6. I don't think much changes. And eventually we will have to start trading on d5. I think it's the same position pretty much.
Grandmaster Eric Lobron in the chat. Greetings. Eric is saying Giri is only strong in drawing. Nah.
No.
He's also strong at opening theory. And Suat is also there. Hello, Suat. A lot of Grandmasters. Earlier we saw Lawrence Trent, who is an honorary Grandmaster.
Yeah.
And Laurent Fressinet. But I think they disappeared.
Yeah, Laurent heard our speech on the topic of Frenchness.
I don't think he heard it. We would have heard from him.
Yeah.
He likes to debate that topic. It's one of his favorite topics.
Yep. And the line that Fabi eventually chose against the piece sacrifice is the line I have seen in chat. I have forgotten who mentioned this, I apologize. But specifically knight c2, fg5, long castles, gf4, bishop d4 was mentioned as the best reply for white. And white supposedly has at depth 35, which is not, you know, the deepest we've seen engines run. But 35 already, I think you start trusting the results.
What was the result?
+1 something.
That
White,
much,
white is better, yeah. GF, bishop d4 specifically, and white supposedly is quite significantly better, despite black having, what, 4 pawns for the piece? That's quite surprising, actually. You wouldn't think that a very open position with these many pawns for the sacrificed piece would be that bad for black. There's also queen f6 here. I've been staring at this for a while, wondering why this is not the move. Bishop d4, queen takes f4 check. But I guess if white is giving up the pawn on f4 anyway, you maybe actually won the pawn on f4 and not the queen. King b1. Although, yeah, I guess the point is the bishop will come to c4 or b5, one of those squares, and white will actually have a very strong piece, quite well positioned on the d5 square. And then the pawns don't really start running, and the pieces, the weight of the extra piece is just going to start telling here.
We're having a debate. I think Eric said Giri is the modern Ripley, and Suat is claiming, I believe Ripley was more successful. I can't really judge. Obviously, it was different time, different ratings, and so on. But Giri reached 2,800. No, like that's significant.
No, Ripley was extremely strong
Yeah, for sure.
in his pomp, but yeah, I don't know. That argument sounds weird to me. I don't entirely agree with it. I think,
We haven't had a Let's Defend Anish show for a while.
yeah,
Girinho, we still believe.
and yeah, we don't mean any disrespect to Zoltan. Zoltan, I think, was at some point close to being the world number 3.
I also wasn't being facetious. I really can't judge.
It's
So Zoltan was high up there, and I'm not sure how they compare against each other, how deeply he went in candidate matches and so on.
yeah,
He was extremely well prepared, extremely theoretical, and made a lot of draws, so I get that part.
yeah. The comparison is actually somewhat valid stylistically because yeah, Zoltan in his pomp, yeah, he did make a ton of well researched draws with black and would win nice games with white every now and again, and it just was very tough to beat generally. But yeah, like instant judgment, I would say I'm Team Giri in this debate. I think Anish has achieved enough already to maybe already count as a more successful player overall, and his career is far from finished. But yeah, it's an actual debate somebody could have.
All right. Where do you stand on the hotly debated topic, Jordan van Foreest versus Gyula Sachs?
I don't know, but Lubo much stronger than Giri. Okay, this is becoming upsetting.
Blasphemy.
This is really becoming very upsetting to me here, and I say this with much love for Lubo, but yeah, I don't know.
You've upset Peter. Don't forget, Anish, with all his
Takes a
his
jug of
Western European
water.
swagger, he was born in St. Petersburg, so there's a connection there.
Timon was much stronger than Giri. Okay, this I can sort of understand this argument. Timon was a challenger, a former candidate, but
Anish is a current candidate.
I'm aware. But he's also a former. I was about to say he's not a former candidate, which seems to be the prerequisite. But he is a former candidate. He played in Moscow, so yeah. No, Jan Henrik is obviously a true legend of the game, and
Yeah, their legacy wise, I don't think anybody disagrees. Like, he was he number 2?
maybe
Probably
briefly,
tough. being
yeah, briefly
with
around.
the 2 case around. No, number 3 for sure.
Yeah, number 3 for sure for many years, and yeah, Jan Henrik is a huge figure in European chess in general, not just Dutch chess. One of the
Also, his writing was, at least to me, the art of analysis was such a fantastic book. I like to get into my hands, so big fan. I also had this debate with Luke, I think, because I like making top 10 lists of the most accomplished Dutch chess players ever, and then putting Luke not number 1, so you have a debate at your hands. But Luke was arguing that Timman should be number 1 and Uwe number 2. Well, I put Uwe number 1 automatically because world champion. But he could have had a point, no? If we look at the body of work and the overall contribution and all that stuff. Maybe Timman is a more influential figure for Dutch chess than Uwe.
yeah, it's those sort of intergenerational
Of course, it's all
discussions
random, but gotta fill the time. So do you put Giri? Where do you put Giri on that list?
I just don't.
All right.
And Sachin Roy says Vichy, apparently, according to the machine, really misplayed his position. I really liked what he did, but maybe there were some new moves coming in. I would like to know what was the supposed solution for Vichy instead of what he played. Can we just briefly have a look at this? Okay. So these 3 moves: the taking on d5, the rook e5, and the queen b3. Yeah, that's a committal decision by Vichy, and the one I didn't instantly like when you suggested it. I'm sure he has a plan, but Even something simple like rook e8. But I think mainly he just didn't like rook e5, bishop e6, and that makes me question if bishop f4 was as clever as I tried describing it. But I don't think white is worse, but white doesn't feel like he is better anymore after any rook to e8. Probably a actually to keep an eye on the f7 pawn, so that after, let's say, rook a8, rook e1, I want to take on e5, and I want to have queen takes d4 as a reply to knight takes e5 there. Yeah, it feels like black should be okay here.
Yeah. Not too surprised that this game ends in a draw, even after not too long a debate. Yeah, Vichy shown yesterday that he wasn't ready to play another game then yet, or to play a long game after the Fabi shock. Nikita's not having a great tournament, so Vichy gets nothing out of the opening. I think I've mentioned this before.
Yeah, and Magnus apparently is now, people are calling f5 a blunder.
Blunder!
It's not really a blunder as such, but yeah, it's a very, very difficult move to get behind, because if you're not really getting mated after g6, you should probably still prefer g6, because after g6 you can, like, it's also a committal worsening move for sure, but the opposition is not like rendered completely ruined by doing this. Whereas after f5, let's say I just plays bishop d6, these types of positions, the bishop will return to a2. Very importantly, after f5, the bishop has done his job on b1. It goes back to a2, and yeah, that weakness on e6, and the general weakness of the e5 square, and also the bishop on c8 is still undeveloped and will not be easy to develop. Yeah, this is now, like, people move. I've seen the +2 in chat, and I'm not shocked. To be honest, it does feel like this is just a bad position now. In particular, I think after bishop d6.
Also, let's face it, Magnus is starting to catch some speed. He is an overwhelming favorite against Kovalev. The tournament has not been going well for Kovalev. Then he runs into early, I don't know if problems, but questions at least by Magnus is somewhat not mainstream line. It's no one's going to be too surprised if this goes one way.
Yeah, but before this position, you could still argue that without the overriding, like the overall narrative of this being a Carlsen Kovalev game, the position might still be defensible.
Sure.
After f5, you look at it and you think, yeah, you have probably compromised it sort of beyond repair against best play.
Having said all this, what's the move? I'm reading e4 directly? It looks strange to me.
Few direct wins for Carlsen. Yeah, I don't know if wins are how I would describe it. But yeah, he just goes castles here, saying that I don't even need to start trading, because I mean, the biggest issue black has is the bishop on c8 and the rook on a8. Apart from the horrible structure on the king side, if black could actually develop, if you could imagine in this position black playing rook a8 d8. If jumping over your bishop was a legal move you could make in this position, the position would improve dramatically. You could start offering trades on the g-file. You would either force some simplifications, or you would force white to actually abandon the g-file, giving your pieces something to do. But with those pieces just completely out of play, this is just so difficult to organize. And the idea of playing e4 is, in particular, if black takes on g3, but also, yeah, now that the capture on g3 happened, and white is completely free to play e4 next move, and just start opening stuff up in the center while those two pieces are completely out of play.
Yeah. Or g4. We have two g-pawns.
Guys, calm down, says 1993. Kovalev has the bishop pair. Even I, and I will argue for a bishop pair in every single position, but even I here will not say a word about the bishop pair. It's just not very relevant. You do play bishop f6 here, and hope you get to take on c3 and at least ruin the structure a little bit, maybe play e6, e5 after that. But yeah, I think the expectation is you just get completely destroyed in the center somehow.
We haven't looked at Jeffrey Zhong versus Vladislav Artemiev for a while. Shall we do so now?
Yeah, I think Jeffrey is probably not much better, but he is definitely he definitely has some advantage here, and black needs to be very precise. After bishop takes e5, I thought it was just automatically rook takes d3, but actually you can take on e7. You've waited for black to take with the bishop on e5, and now you can go rook e7, bishop e7, rook e8, bishop h4. And that pawn on d3 appears to be lost. I don't see how you defend it. Yeah, you can do that, but
high price.
yeah, but that's probably a bit too expensive. Might not, but I mean, it might be the best option in rook a8 here. Honestly, like if you get d2 bishop c3 and this is maybe not that horrible. Which is why I also want to bring up the point that after bishop e5 we can just take on d3. Move 19 and I think that rook lands on d5, rook fd1 here. I'm obviously not taking, not allowing you to get to d3. Even that is not instantly equal, but this is the position I wanted to play. And yeah, something like g3 or g4 or whatever. And then it goes to either d7 or d5, and you continue putting quite a bit of pressure on the black structure here. Rook d5, bishop c3, well, king f1, rook b5, king e2, and so on. This is not equal. The pawn on a5 is quite vulnerable here, and the rook on b5 will be such a monstrous piece. Yeah, king e2, king f7, rook b5. There's also a very simple plan of bishop c5, b6, which I'm not sure how easy it is to meet, to be honest. No, this is not, like, black might hold this with very, very accurate play, but this is not equal. Not by any stretch.
All right, so Artemiev today has to defend after. Yes, he did not manage to break through versus Yu Yangyi, being the attacking side. Today he's back, having to defend. Wesley also has to defend, pawn down, but do you think Yu Yangyi has realistic winning chances here?
No. I think this is, like, if this is the best white could get, I don't think you... Actually, if the bishops come off, it's an immediate draw, and more or less. And there's actually the reason I was so confident this should be a draw is there is a line in the Grunfeld, and actually a very topical line of the Grunfeld, which ends in pretty much this endgame, with the pawns on e4 and c3. Which is actually slightly better for black because they're weaker on e4. In particular, the one on c3 is a huge target because with the light squared bishops left on the board, it's a lot more difficult to protect. And here, if you go king f2, king e3, in particular, if you somehow get one pair of rooks off, you might have a shot. I'm kind of rethinking it a little bit, and also just how unfun this must be. Is even that line, you know the one I'm talking about, yeah, the Grunfeld. I've actually gone for it in tournament games, and every time when I expect this might happen, I repeat my files like for half an hour before the game, and I'm still extremely, I have extreme apprehension about having to play this. How does this go? Hang on a second. How does this go? No, already a mistake has been made. Yeah, it's in this line. It's a serious line actually. Arguably, whoops. Okay, I mean obviously bishop e3, but my point is this. This is maybe the most topical reply to the main Grunfeld, the classical Grunfeld, so to speak. And in this position, I'm probably not doing, yeah, I'm not doing this right. Why am I not doing this right? How does this go? b2, I think we're supposed to go bc. How does this line go? f4, knight g4, yeah, knight g4, bishop c5, a6, knight a3, queen c7, bishop d4, e5, fe5, knight e5, queen e1, bishop g4, yeah, this position. And Yeah, and here eventually, although it's not bishops, it's the knights actually. Now that I look at the position, but you end up having to defend this like basically the analysis starts from here. This is the position you need to analyze, and every time I get very, very scared, I will misplay it and lose it, but it's actually quite safe. And people have mainly drawn this position without too much issue. There's been quite a bit of grandmaster traffic starting from here in some years ago, and by now I think it's more or less disappeared because people have recognized that winning chances are few and far between here for white. Yeah, there are other moves here.
Yep. Kayaking catches MVL in this line like once per year.
Yeah.
What else is there to talk about? It's
The-
quiz time in 45 minutes today. I was promised an easier question. I must admit, I had a glance at the question. Somewhat easier, still not that easy. But this one you can probably know off the top of your head. You might not have to Google, you might have to type quickly,
Yep.
just so you know.
Yeah, Magnus has a very good position, also started playing very quickly. I'm pretty sure he kind of knows how good his position is. Noticeably, he paid absolutely no attention to the threat to the a3 pawn, saying that I have such overwhelming advantage in the center. And
Sacrifice a pawn? What are you doing, Magnus? Queen takes c3.
arguably, white is better even here, but yeah, I don't think very many people take with the queen on c3 here, and Magnus hasn't. I think queen takes a3. In all honesty, I think it's the only move you can make in the current Kovalev position, because you absolutely have to have at least something for your suffering. Like if you play this position and you don't even have an extra pawn, like there is just no prospects. After queen takes a3, at least some endgames will be okay if you survive until the endgame. And rook f1, I expect, is the reply, and it's just the sad thing is you will not see an endgame in this game if you're black. Yeah, takes rook f1, also kind of scary looking, but since black wasn't taking on a4, I liked the immediate rook e1 better for, weird preserve the tension reasons. I don't know if it's valid here or not. It's just so difficult to make move. But we play queen c5 here, and we continue shuffling, and yeah, after queen c5 we get hit by ef, rook d5 either immediately or after the check, and we feel sad. Yeah, queen a3 played. I think that's the correct approach. I really do think this is a time to pawn grab, because you're gonna be close to lost anyway, but at least here you can later maybe return that pawn. Yeah, and people explaining to us how white is completely winning after queen a3. I was not making an argument that white isn't. I really wasn't. I was just saying that it's better with an extra pawn in positions like this than without it.
Looks like our little tool is having an issue here. Tekian is on it, but he's scared. I think I might have to restart the whole thingy. Apologies. We'll be back within probably 1 minute. I'll just let the tech guys know. So, yeah, we'll be back very, very soon. Sorry for that. We might still be on, I'm not sure. I have to manually end it.